Ava Carter stared at her phone. Her hands trembled as she typed the desperate message. Ethan, I hate to ask again, but I need $40 for Sophia's formula. I get paid Friday. I swear I'll pay you back. She hit send before she could change her mind. Then, she slumped against her threadbare couch. Exhaustion washed over her. The baby monitor crackled with the soft sounds of her 6-month-old daughter's breathing. Ava had exactly $2.13 in her checking account. No formula. She had already watered down the last bottle more than she should have. The text was humiliating, but her pride meant nothing compared to her daughter's hunger. 3 miles away, in the penthouse office of Summit Tech Solutions, Liam Thompson's phone buzzed. The 42-year-old CEO glanced at the notification, expecting another update from his executive team about the pending merger. Instead, he found himself staring at a message clearly not meant for him. Liam frowned. He ran a hand through his salt and pepper hair. He rarely used this personal number. Only a select few even had it. This was obviously a wrong number. Yet, something about the raw desperation in those few lines made him pause before dismissing it. Ava's phone pinged with a response that made her heart stop. I think you have the wrong number. I'm not Ethan. Horror washed over her as she checked the number. She had mistyped the last digit of her brother's new phone number. I'm so sorry, she typed back quickly. Please ignore that. Wrong number. She tossed her phone aside, mortification burning through her exhaustion. Another failure in a long string of them. Liam couldn't explain why he didn't simply acknowledge her apology and move on. Perhaps it was the mention of a baby. Or maybe it was just the welcome distraction from the cutthroat negotiations that had consumed his life for months. Is your baby going to be okay? He typed, surprising himself. When Ava saw the response, she blinked in confusion. Why would a stranger care? Her first instinct was caution. She'd heard plenty of stories about predators online, but exhaustion and desperation weakened her usual defenses. We'll manage, she replied curtly. Sorry to bother you. I could help, came the immediate response. No strings attached. Ava snorted. In her experience, there were always strings. Thanks, but I don't take money from strangers, she wrote back. Smart policy, Liam replied. He hesitated, then added, I'm Alex. Now I'm not a stranger. What formula does your baby need? Ava stared at the message, torn between suspicion and a flicker of hope. Why would someone help someone they didn't know? In his office, Liam looked out over the city skyline. Why indeed? His assistant would say he was procrastinating on reviewing the merger documents. His ex-wife would say he was having another impulsive moment. Both would be partially right. Let's just say I've been fortunate, and I remember when I wasn't, he replied. It wasn't the whole truth, but it wasn't a lie either. Ava's exhaustion clouded her judgment. She hadn't slept more than 3 consecutive hours and days. The baby formula was on familiar gentles. Sophia had colic, and it was the only brand that didn't make her scream for hours. It was also the most expensive one on the shelf. I don't feel right about this, she typed. What's your Venmo? Liam asked. Ava hesitated, then sent her username. What did she have to lose? She could always block this person if things got weird. Seconds later, her phone buzzed with a notification. Ava gasped. This Liam hadn't sent $40. He'd sent $400. This is too much, she typed frantically. I can't accept this. Consider it in advance for the next few months, Liam replied. One less thing to worry about. Tears sprang to Ava's eyes, blurring her vision. She hadn't cried when she'd been laid off from the accounting firm 2 months ago. She hadn't cried when Ethan, her only remaining family, had moved across the country for work, leaving her without her safety net. She hadn't even cried when her landlord had slipped the late notice under her door yesterday. But this unexpected kindness from a complete stranger broke something loose inside her. Thank you, she typed simply, unable to find words adequate for her gratitude. You're welcome, Ava, Liam replied. Take care of Sophia. It wasn't until hours later, as Ava returned from the store with formula and groceries, that she realized something that made her blood run cold. She had never mentioned her daughter's name to this stranger. The next morning, Ava woke to another message from the mysterious Liam. Hope you and Sophia had a better night. I have a proposition for you. Ava's guard immediately went up. Here it comes, she thought bitterly. The strings. What kind of proposition? She asked wearily. Professional, not personal, came the swift reply. I run a company called Summit Tech Solutions. We need someone with accounting skills for a short-term project. Your brother Ethan mentioned you were looking for work. Ava nearly dropped her phone. How do you know my brother? How do you know I'm an accountant? Her heart raced as she checked her social media profiles, all set to private. Who was this person? I apologize for the intrusion, Liam wrote. After our conversation, I was curious. Your number is very similar to Ethan Connors, who works in my HR department. When I mentioned the wrong number text to him this morning, he realized who you must be. He speaks very highly of your accounting skills. Ava sank into her couch, relief and weariness battling for dominance. It was a reasonable explanation, but still unsettling. So this was all just a coincidence? Completely, Liam confirmed. But perhaps a fortunate one for both of us. We genuinely need help with a project reconciling some accounts before a merger. It's a 3-month contract with the possibility of permanent placement. Would you be interested in interviewing? Ava's mind raced. It seemed too perfect, too convenient. Yet, her brother did indeed work in HR at some tech company. She'd never paid much attention to the details. She'd been sending out resumes for weeks with no response. Could she really afford to turn down this opportunity out of suspicion? I'd be interested in hearing more, she finally replied cautiously. But I'd need flexibility. I have Sophia, and childcare is. We offer on-site childcare for employees, Liam wrote back immediately. And flexible working hours. Come in tomorrow at 10 a.m. I'll tell reception to expect you. As Ava prepared Sophia's morning bottle, she couldn't shake the feeling that something about this situation wasn't adding up. The coincidence seemed too perfect, the timing too convenient. But with her savings depleted and rent due, did she really have the luxury of looking this gift horse in the mouth? What she didn't know was that across town, Liam Thompson was having second thoughts about his impulsive decision, wondering if he'd overstepped boundaries in a way that would come back to haunt them both. The Summit Tech Solutions headquarters loomed above Ava like a gleaming monolith of glass and steel. She adjusted Sophia's carrier on her arm, straightened her only professional blazer, thrifted but still presentable, and pushed through the revolving doors. The security guard at the front desk smiled as she approached. Ava Carter, he asked before she could speak. At her surprised nod, he continued, Mr. Thompson's office is on the top floor. Grace will meet you at the elevator. The smooth efficiency with which she was escorted through the building only heightened Ava's sense of unreality. This wasn't how job interviews usually went, especially not for temporary accounting positions. An elegant woman in her 50s met her as promised and led her, not to a conference room or HR office, but directly to a corner suite with views that made Ava momentarily forget her anxiety. He'll be with you shortly, Grace said, gesturing to a sitting area. Can I get you anything? Coffee? Water? Water would be nice. Thank you, Ava replied, settling Sophia's carrier on the soft leather couch beside her. The baby was mercifully asleep, exhausted from the morning's preparations. Ava used the moment alone to take in her surroundings. The office was surprisingly warm for a CEO's lair. Bookshelves lined one wall, and family photos dotted the desk. A guitar stood in one corner, incongruous against the backdrop of corporate success. She looks peaceful, came a deep voice from the doorway. Ava turned to find a tall man watching her with keen interest. His expensive suit couldn't hide the athletic build beneath, and laugh lines around his eyes softened what might otherwise have been an intimidating presence. This, she realized with a jolt, was Liam Thompson, the stranger who had sent her $400 for baby formula. Mr. Thompson, she said, standing quickly. Thank you for seeing me. Liam, please, he corrected, moving forward to shake her hand. His grip was firm but brief. Thank you for coming in on such short notice, he said. There was an awkward pause as they both seemed to acknowledge the strange circumstances that had brought them together. I should explain yesterday's texts, he said finally, taking a seat across from her. I don't make a habit of sending money to wrong numbers, and I don't make a habit of accepting it, Ava countered, finding her voice. I'm still not entirely comfortable with how this all happened, Liam nodded, respecting her directness. Fair enough. The truth is, your message came at a particular moment. Yesterday was the anniversary of my daughter's death. Ava's breath caught. I'm so sorry. Charlotte would have been 8, he continued, his eyes drifting to Sophia. Leukemia. She fought for 3 years. Ava instinctively reached for Sophia's carrier, a protective gesture that didn't go unnoticed. When I got your text about needing formula, Liam said, it felt like, I don't know, a chance to help someone the way I couldn't help her. The explanation disarmed Ava. The suspicion she'd been nursing, that this was some elaborate setup or worse, that he expected something inappropriate in return for his help, began to dissolve. And the job? She asked cautiously. Completely legitimate, Liam assured her. The connection with your brother was coincidental. But when I mentioned the wrong number story to the HR team this morning, Ethan recognized the situation immediately. He's been worried about you. Ava felt a flush of embarrassment. Ethan doesn't know how bad things got. I didn't want him to worry when he's just getting established himself. Family pride, Liam noted with understanding. I know something about that, too. He handed her a folder. These are the details of the position: 3 months, full benefits, competitive salary. We're preparing for a merger and need someone to reconcile some discrepancies in our financial records. Ava scanned the documents. Her accounting background immediately spotted the considerable salary, more than she'd made at her previous job. This is very generous for a temporary position. We pay for quality, Liam replied simply. Ethan showed me your resume. 2 years at DOT, top of your class at Georgetown. You're overqualified, if anything. Grace returned with water and coffee, providing Ava a moment to collect her thoughts. The job was real. The salary would solve her immediate financial crisis. But something still nagged at her. Why didn't you just tell me who you were from the beginning? She asked after Grace left. In the texts. Liam sipped his coffee, considering. Would you have believed me? Hi, I'm a CEO. Let me help you. Probably not, Ava admitted. And then there's the fact that this is rather unorthodox, he added. The board would have questions about me personally reaching out to a candidate. Sophia stirred in her carrier, making small noises that Ava recognized as the prelude to a full-blown hunger cry. With practiced movements, she lifted the baby and reached for the diaper bag. May I? Liam asked, gesturing to the door near his desk. There's a small kitchenette through there, more private. Ava nodded gratefully and slipped into what turned out to be a well-appointed private break room. As she prepared Sophia's bottle, her mind raced through her options. The job seemed legitimate. The company was reputable. She'd looked it up on her phone during the subway ride. And yet, the circumstances remained strange enough to give her pause. When she returned, Liam was on the phone, his voice low and tense. I don't care what Patterson thinks. We're not selling that division because I gave my word to those employees. That's why. He caught sight of Ava and quickly ended the call. Sorry about that. Merger negotiations are always tense. Ava settled back on the couch with Sophia in her arms. It sounds complicated. Business usually is, he replied, watching as she fed the baby. You're good with her. I had to be, Ava said softly. Her father left when he found out I was pregnant. It's just been us. Liam's expression darkened momentarily. His loss. The conversation shifted to the specifics of the job, hours, responsibilities, the project timeline. Ava found herself relaxing as they discussed familiar accounting territory. This, at least, made sense to her. One last thing, Liam said as their meeting drew to a close. The on-site daycare is excellent, but it currently has a waiting list. Until a spot opens for Sophia, would you be comfortable working from my private office suite? There's a small conference room you could use, and Sophia would be welcome. The offer took Ava by surprise. That's unusually accommodating. We pay for quality, Liam replied, though something in his expression suggested there was more to it. And the work needs to be kept confidential, given the sensitive nature of the merger. As if on cue, Grace appeared at the door. Mr. Thompson, your 10:30 is waiting. Liam stood, extending his hand again. So, Ava Carter, do we have a deal? Ava hesitated only briefly before taking his hand. Yes, thank you for the opportunity. Perfect. Grace will help you with the paperwork. You can start Monday. He paused at the door. And Ava, the $400 was a gift, not an advance. No need to pay it back. Before she could protest, he was gone, leaving Ava with the distinct impression that her life had just changed course in ways she couldn't yet imagine. What she didn't see was Liam stopping in the hallway, removing a photo from his wallet, a woman holding a baby girl, and staring at it with a complex mixture of emotions before tucking it away and straightening his shoulders to meet his next appointment. 3 weeks into her contract at Summit Tech Solutions, Ava had settled into a routine that still felt surreal. Each morning, she and Sophia would take the elevator to the top floor, where Grace would greet them with a warm smile and often a cup of coffee for Ava. The small conference room adjacent to Liam's office had been transformed into a functional workspace, complete with a portable crib for Sophia's naps. The financial reconciliation project was challenging but engaging, exactly the kind of work Ava had excelled at before Sophia's birth had derailed her career plans. The discrepancies she'd been hired to investigate were subtle but significant, consistent patterns of small financial aberrations that individually meant little but collectively suggested something more troubling. "These numbers don't add up," Ava murmured to herself, comparing spreadsheets on her dual monitors. Sophia babbled happily from her playmat on the floor, entertained by the colorful toys Grace had mysteriously produced on Ava's second day. A soft knock interrupted her concentration. Liam stood at the door, his tie loosened, looking more tired than she'd seen him before. "Making progress?" he asked, entering and immediately crouching down to greet Sophia, who squealed in delight at the attention. The baby had grown inexplicably attached to Liam, reaching for him whenever he appeared. "Some," Ava replied, watching their interaction with a mixture of warmth and caution. "But I found something concerning in the Thompson acquisition accounts." Liam's focus shifted immediately. "Show me." Ava pulled up the relevant files, explaining the patterns she'd discovered. "These variances are too consistent to be accidental. Someone's been systematically siphoning small amounts from multiple accounts, then covering their tracks with adjusted entries." Liam's expression darkened as he studied the screen. "How much are we talking about?" "About $3 million over the past 18 months, Ava said quietly. "Isn't that why you hired me, to find exactly this kind of thing?" A flicker of something, guilt, concern, crossed Liam's face. "Yes, of course," he straightened, running a hand through his hair. "I need you to prepare a complete report. Don't share this with anyone else yet, not even Ethan, not even your CFO." Ava asked, surprised. "Especially not Noah?" "Especially not Noah," Liam confirmed, his jaw tightening. "Not until we know more." After he left, Ava sat back, troubled by the exchange. Why would the CEO want to keep potential embezzlement from his chief financial officer? "No," she muttered to herself. "Don't go creating conspiracies." But the seed of doubt had been planted. That evening, after putting Sophia to bed in their now considerably more comfortable apartment, thanks to her Summit salary, Ava began her own investigation. By midnight, she had compiled a disturbing timeline. The financial discrepancies had begun shortly after Noah Bennett had been appointed CFO, following the unexpected resignation of his predecessor. The next morning, Ava arrived earlier than usual, determined to speak with Liam before the day's meetings began. She found his office dark, which was unusual. He typically arrived before everyone else. A text notification lit up her phone. "Emergency board meeting. Use the time to finish your report. We'll talk later." The vague message did nothing to ease Ava's growing unease. She settled Sophia in her play area and dove back into the financial records, expanding her search parameters. By lunchtime, her suspicions had solidified into certainty. Someone high up in Summit was systematically embezzling funds, and the pattern suggested intimate knowledge of the company's financial oversight systems. Ava was so engrossed in her work that she didn't notice Noah Bennett until he was standing in her doorway, his imposing figure blocking the light. "Maker," he said smoothly. "Hard at work, I see." Ava instinctively minimized her screen. "Mr. Bennett, can I help you?" The CFO's smile didn't reach his eyes. "I understand you've been working on some special project for Liam." Curious that he didn't involve the finance department. "Just some reconciliation for the merger," Ava replied vaguely, her heart racing. "Nothing exciting." Noah stepped further into the room, glancing at Sophia, who watched him with solemn eyes. "Convenient arrangement you have here, private office, bringing your child to work. Liam must think very highly of your skills." The insinuation was clear and made Ava's cheeks burn with indignation. "Mr. Thompson values efficiency," she said stiffly. and I found several issues that needed addressing. I'm sure you have, Noah replied, his tone making it clear he believed something entirely different was going on. Just remember, Miss Carter, Summit was doing fine before you arrived, and it will continue long after your temporary position ends. After he left, Ava sat shaking, both angry and frightened. The confrontation confirmed her suspicions that Noah saw her as a threat, but it also suggested something worse, that others in the company might perceive her special arrangement with Liam as something inappropriate. She was still processing the encounter when her phone rang with an unfamiliar number. Ava Carter speaking, she answered professionally. Miss Carter, this is Detective Riley Adams with the Financial Crimes Division. The woman's voice was brisk and official. I understand you're currently employed at Summit Tech Solutions. Ava's blood ran cold. Yes, that's correct. We're investigating some irregularities in Summit's accounts. I'd like to ask you a few questions. I'm not sure what I can tell you, Ava stammered, looking anxiously toward Sophia. Perhaps we should continue this conversation at our office, the detective suggested. This afternoon, if possible. By the time Liam finally returned from his meeting at 3 o'clock, Ava was nearly frantic. She immediately pulled him into his office, closing the door. The police called me, she blurted out. Financial Crimes Division. They want me to come in for questioning. And Noah Bennett was here, acting suspicious about what I'm working on. Liam's face paled. Damn it, he muttered. This is happening faster than I expected. He paced the length of his office, then turned to her with unexpected intensity. Ava, I need to tell you something, and I need you to trust me. Trust you? She echoed incredulously. Liam, what's going on? Am I being set up for something? No, he said firmly. The opposite. I need to show you something. He unlocked a drawer in his desk and pulled out a thick file. I haven't been entirely honest with you about why I hired you. Ava felt the floor shift beneath her. What do you mean? You weren't randomly assigned to me through a wrong number, Liam said, his voice low and urgent. I've been investigating internal theft at Summit for months. We needed someone from outside the company, someone with no connections to the executive team. So you what? Targeted me. Ava felt sick. You used my financial situation, my desperation, to give you a legitimate job that you're excellent at, Ava countered, finding her voice. Yes, I had ulterior motives for hiring you, but not the kind you're thinking of. I'm working with the FBI on this, Ava. Noah Bennett isn't just embezzling. He's laundering money through our international divisions. Ava sank into a chair, her mind racing. The detective who called is legitimate? Yes, Liam confirmed. But you need to be careful what you tell her. We don't know who else might be involved. Before Ava could respond, Grace burst into the office without knocking, something she'd never done before. Liam, she said, her usual composure shattered. They're here, board security and the police. They're saying, she faltered, looking at Ava with confusion. Saying what, Grace? Liam prompted, already moving toward Ava and Sophia. They're saying you've been embezzling funds. They have a warrant for your arrest, and they specifically mentioned Miss Carter as an accomplice. Ava clutched Sophia to her chest, a cold wave of terror washing over her. This can't be happening. Liam's face hardened as he made a swift decision. Grace, use the private elevator. Get Ava and Sophia out of the building now. Take them to the safe house. The safe house, Ava repeated, feeling as though she'd stumbled into some bizarre thriller movie. Ava, Liam interrupted, gripping her shoulders and looking directly into her eyes. Listen to me carefully. No one knows you found evidence against him. He's trying to frame us both. If you stay here, they'll separate you from Sophia while you're being questioned. The thought of being separated from her daughter was enough to galvanize Ava into action. She quickly gathered Sophia's things while Grace collected the files from Ava's desk. What about you? Ava asked Liam as they moved toward a hidden door behind his desk. I'll handle this, he said grimly. I have allies on the board. Just stay safe until I contact you. He hesitated, then added more softly. And Ava, the way I feel about you and Sophia, that's been real. Before Ava could process his words, Grace was guiding her through the hidden passage to a private elevator, leaving Liam to face the approaching storm alone. The safe house turned out to be a modest but comfortable apartment in a secure building across town. Ava paced the living room. Sophia, finally asleep in the portable crib Grace had somehow procured along with diapers, formula, and other essentials. You seem very prepared for this, Ava observed, watching the older woman efficiently arrange supplies in the kitchen. Grace's normally pleasant expression was serious. Liam has always been careful. When the discrepancies first appeared 6 months ago, he knew something was wrong. So all of this was planned? Ava asked, struggling to reconcile her feelings of betrayal with the evidence that Liam had been working to expose corruption, not perpetrate it. Not all of it, Grace replied, her expression softening. Finding you was a genuine coincidence. But Liam recognized an opportunity when he saw it. Someone with the skills we needed, with no connections to Noah's network. But why not just go to the authorities from the beginning? Ava pressed. He did, Grace said. But Noah has powerful friends. The first investigation was quietly closed due to lack of evidence. She handed Ava a cup of tea. Liam needed irrefutable proof before moving forward again, which you found. Ava realized. Which I found, Grace confirmed. Ava sank onto the couch, overwhelmed. And now I'm hiding in a safe house like some character in a thriller, while Liam is possibly being arrested for crimes he didn't commit. Liam can take care of himself, Grace assured her, though worry lines creased her forehead. He's been preparing for this confrontation for months. Hours passed with no word. Ava tried to distract herself by reviewing the files Grace had saved, looking for anything that might help Liam's case. Around midnight, her phone buzzed with a message from an unknown number. Are you safe? Yes, she typed back cautiously. Is this a? It's me, came the reply. Had to ditch my regular phone. Police took my devices, but released me for now. Noah's playing this carefully, making it look like he's the one who discovered the embezzlement. What happens now? Ava asked. Now we use what you found. My contact at the FBI is meeting us tomorrow at 10 a.m. Ava stared at the message. Us. If you're willing. You found the evidence. You can explain it better than anyone. Ava glanced at Sophia, sleeping peacefully, unaware of the chaos surrounding them. By agreeing to meet with the FBI, she'd be stepping directly into a dangerous situation, potentially making herself a target. The sensible thing would be to take Sophia and disappear. She had enough money saved now to start fresh somewhere. But running would mean Noah Bennett and his accomplices might escape justice. It would mean abandoning Liam after he'd put himself at risk trying to do the right thing. Despite his deception about how they met, everything else, the job, the accommodations for Sophia, the respect for her work, had been genuine. I'll be there, she replied. The next morning, after Grace arrived to watch Sophia, Ava met Liam at a nondescript office building downtown. He looked exhausted but managed a relieved smile when he saw her. You came, he said simply. I almost didn't, Ava admitted. Part of me still thinks this is crazy. It is crazy, Liam agreed, guiding her inside with a gentle hand at her back. But it's also necessary. The FBI agent, a sharp-eyed woman named Madison Brooks, listened intently as Ava walked through her findings, explaining in detail how the embezzlement scheme worked and how it had been disguised. This is exactly what we needed, Agent Brooks said when Ava finished. Clear evidence of both embezzlement and money laundering. She turned to Liam. The board meeting scheduled for this afternoon. Noah will be there. Liam nodded. Along with the board members who've been protecting him. They're planning to formally accuse me and vote me out. Perfect, Agent Brooks smiled thinly. We'll be ready. The plan was straightforward but risky. Liam would attend the board meeting as expected. Ava would wait with the FBI team in an adjacent room, ready to present her evidence once Noah made his accusations. The timing would be crucial. They needed Noah to explicitly lie to the board with federal agents present. As they prepared to leave for Summit Tech Solutions, Liam pulled Ava aside. If this goes wrong, he said quietly, Grace has instructions to get you and Sophia out of the country. There's an account set up in your name with enough to start over. Ava stared at him, stunned by the extent of his contingency planning. It won't come to that, she said with more confidence than she felt. Just in case, Liam insisted, pressing a small envelope into her hand. And Ava, thank you for trusting me, even after everything. The board meeting began precisely at 3 o'clock. Ava watched through a monitor in the next room as Noah Bennett stood to address the gathered executives, his face a mask of regretful duty. It pains me to present these findings, he began, distributing folders to each board member. But the evidence is clear. Liam Thompson, with the assistance of an outside accomplice named Ava Carter, has been systematically diverting company funds to offshore accounts. Ava felt sick hearing her name spoken with such calculated malice. On screen, Liam remained impressively calm. That's a serious accusation, Noah, he said evenly. I assume you have proof. The proof is in front of you, Noah replied smoothly. Financial records don't lie. No, they don't, Liam agreed. Which is why I'd like to introduce some additional evidence. He nodded toward the door, the signal they'd arranged. Agent Brooks opened the door, and Ava entered the boardroom with 2 FBI agents flanking her. The shock on Noah's face was momentarily satisfying before it transformed into calculated composure. Miss Carter, he said coldly. How convenient. Here to defend your benefactor. Actually, Ava replied, I'm here to explain how you've been stealing from Summit for the past 18 months. For the next 30 minutes, Ava walked the board through her findings, methodically dismantling Noah's false narrative while the FBI agents distributed her report. She explained how Noah had created a sophisticated system of small diversions, hidden accounting adjustments, and falsified reconciliations to mask the theft of millions. The pattern begins precisely 3 weeks after Mr. Bennett became CFO, Ava concluded, and the money trail leads directly to shell companies where he's the beneficial owner. Noah's face had grown increasingly pale as she spoke. When she finished, he glanced toward the door, clearly calculating his chances of escape. Don't, Agent Brooks warned, noting his gaze. The building is secured. What happened next occurred so quickly that Ava would later struggle to recall the sequence. Noah lunged across the table toward her, something metallic flashing in his hand. Liam moved without hesitation, placing himself between them. There was a moment of chaotic struggle, shouts from the agents, and then Noah was on the floor, restrained. Liam, Ava cried, seeing blood spreading across his shirt. It's just a scratch, he assured her, though his grimace belied his words. Though I might need a new shirt for the rest of this meeting. 3 hours later, after Noah and 2 board members had been taken into custody, after statements had been given and wounds treated, Ava sat with Liam in his office. Grace had brought Sophia, who was contentedly exploring a new stuffed elephant while the adults processed the day's events. So what happens now? Ava asked, watching Liam gingerly adjust the bandage on his arm. Professionally, damage control. The company will survive this, though the merger might be delayed. He hesitated. Personally, that depends on you. On me. Liam met her gaze directly. Your contract has 2 months left, but I'd like to offer you a permanent position, head of internal audit, reporting directly to the board for independence. Ava blinked in surprise. That's a significant promotion. You've more than earned it, Liam said sincerely. You saw what experienced executives missed, or chose to ignore. Summit needs someone with your integrity. Ava looked at Sophia, now falling asleep clutching her elephant. And the accommodations for Sophia? A spot has officially opened in the company daycare, Liam replied with a small smile. Though she's welcome in my office anytime. He paused, then added more softly. Ava, I know how this started wasn't ideal. I manipulated circumstances to get you here, and I'm sorry for that. But everything since, getting to know you, watching you with Sophia, seeing your brilliance in action, that's been the most real thing in my life since I lost Charlotte. Ava felt a flutter in her chest that had nothing to do with the day's adrenaline. I need time to think, she said honestly. Of course, Liam agreed immediately. Take all the time you need. 6 months later, Summit Tech Solutions held its annual holiday party. Ava, now established in her role as head of internal audit, watched with pride as her team received recognition for implementing new financial safeguards. Sophia, now walking unsteadily, toddled between Ava and Liam, who had long since moved beyond being just her boss. Ready for the announcement, Liam whispered, taking her hand. Ava nodded, feeling the weight of the engagement ring still new on her finger. They had taken things slowly, building trust deliberately after their unusual beginning. The board already knew about their relationship. Transparency had become Ava's watchword in both her professional and personal life. As Liam called for attention and shared their news with the gathered employees, Ava reflected on the text message that had started it all, a desperate plea sent to a wrong number that had somehow found exactly the right person. Though she still teases Liam about his knight in shining armor complex, she couldn't deny that sometimes the most unlikely beginnings led to the most perfect endings. Later that night, as she tucked Sophia into bed in their new home, the three of them together at last, Ava whispered a truth that still amazed her. Sometimes, the mistakes we think will break us are actually pointing us toward where we're meant to be. If this story touched your heart, if you believe that even in our darkest moments, a single act of kindness can change everything, then you're exactly where you need to be. At Twist Inspire Stories, we share powerful tales like this one, stories of resilience, unexpected blessings, and the quiet courage it takes to trust again when life feels broken. This story teaches us that help often comes from places we least expect, and sometimes the mistakes we fear will break us are actually guiding us towards something greater. It reminds us to never underestimate the power of compassion, not just for others, but also for ourselves. Life's twists may surprise us, but they often lead to where we're truly meant to be. If you want more stories that inspire hope, ignite gratitude, and remind you of the beauty in humanity's imperfections, subscribe now and turn on notifications. Let these heartfelt narratives become a part of your journey, a reminder that no matter how tough things get, there's always light waiting to guide you forward. Because here at Twist Inspire Stories, we believe every story matters, and yours does too. Stay with us as we continue sharing moments that make you think, feel, and dream bigger. Together, let's create a world inspired by hope, one story at a time.